Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Squared Circle. Today is Monday, July 29th, and I've got a special edition this evening. With me tonight is Andrew Calandrelli of the Ultimate MMA Training Center. He's got locations in North Haven and Brantford. He's also under contract at Bellator MMA, and we're going to be seeing him fight in our great state in September at Mohegan Sun. You people have heard me tell you about Fight Master on Spike TV. That's a Bellator product, which this gentleman knows a little bit about. He's had a few matches under the Bellator name, and we're going to spend the next hour with him. But first off, if anyone's seen or heard from Hollywood Jay, I understand that he did not make his plane to Vegas, and we're on the lookout for him. I don't know, aces and eights, Tommy? What do we know?
I don't know, I never heard from him, so.
If anyone can call in, give us the whereabouts of Hollywood Jay, we'd appreciate it. But for now, Andrew Calandrelli, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Tell us a little about, first off, the schools. I know you got a brand new location in Brantford,
Yep,
right up the street from my home. Give us a little lowdown.
We just opened up in Brantford a couple months ago. It's
Yep.
a smaller school, which we do wrestling and jiu-jitsu and MMA, wrestling for high school and college. So we have youth, high school, and college kids. MMA all the way from 4 years old all the way to, we have people in their 60s. So all ages.
Okay.
It's a little smaller than our North Haven facility, but we're getting started.
And North Haven's been there for how long?
I've been open in North Haven since 2006. In my new location, we've been there for 2.5 years, which is on 79th State Street. We've always been on State Street, though.
On State Street,
Yep.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen your facility at State Street. It's quite large and
yeah, we have a cage and all
full
that.
cage.
So,
yeah.
So the Brantford school is a little smaller. It's only about 1,100 square feet, but
Okay.
so.
All right, and I know you yourself are a trainer over there. What's your background and what makes you qualified to train somebody in MMA?
I've been a professional MMA fighter since 2004. I've been doing martial arts since I was 4 years old. So I started in traditional martial arts. Started boxing at 12, and then when the UFC came out in 1993, I was a teenager and looked up wherever I can find Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Found it in New York City. At the time, I was in New York City a lot, and started training at the Renzo Gracie Academy in New York City way back in the day, probably in 1996.
Wow.
And
So you got in on the ground floor, basically.
Right at the beginning.
Right.
I trained at the beginning with Matt Serra and a lot of those guys who were just starting out around the same time as me. They were a little ahead. They started out maybe a year before me.
I got like GSP also.
I've actually been doing jiu-jitsu longer than George St. Pierre. I've trained with St. Pierre before. He's been at the school with us when I used to train there.
Okay.
And but he was always a belt under me.
Oh,
So
wow,
when I was a purple belt, he was a blue belt. When I was a brown belt, he was a purple belt, and so on.
And what about Randy Couture?
I trained with Randy Couture. Yeah. I've been to Oregon. I've trained with Team Quest, Matt Lilland. So those guys, Matt Lilland.
Because he's on the Bellator show now,
Yep.
the Fight Master show.
Yeah.
He's one of the coaches.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I trained with him. That was probably around 2003. So when he was still in the UFC and he was champ and all that stuff. So
you're not just the local boy opens a gym. You've been
training for
in there with
time.
big boys,
yeah,
so to speak.
Yep. I've trained UFC fighters. I've trained Tanner McCroy, who fought in the UFC, beat Pete Spratt and guys like that. So I've trained a lot of guys who've been in big shows, and now I'm fighting for Bellator myself. So
yeah. And how long have you been contracted with Bellator?
My first fight in Bellator was 2011, and after that fight was a first-round submission. I got a contract with them for 3 fights. This is my second of my 3-fight contract.
Okay, great. And that's in September in Mohegan.
Yep, September 7th on Saturday night. One of their only Saturday night cards, too, so which is really good.
Yeah.
Convenient. So
great. That's great. And as I said on the show before, it's right here in our Connecticut, and we always promote, things in our state. And I think it's great. It's the finality of the Fight Master show. So
I didn't even know that. September 7th. Yeah, because Joe Warren is on the card, and he's one of the coaches.
Yeah. So I mean, you're going to see what we've been watching, build up from week to week on the show. You're going to see the culmination of it right here in Connecticut, which I think it's great for our state. It's great for us, and Mohegan Sun is a great venue. It's quite a large arena, and that should be fun for you to hear like the roar of the crowd. Does that motivate you, or do you like block it out? Is that something that
in
has an effect?
August of 2011, I sold about $10,000 in tickets, so I had a pretty big crowd.
Yeah.
So yeah, all my friends are there and family and all my students. So you get nervous, but it's a feeling that you definitely enjoy, and afterwards you want to feel again.
Right.
It's scary at first, but it's worth it.
But can you? I mean, when you're in the cage, I mean, can you hear, or are you just focused on your opponent? Do you hear like the roar of the crowd and people going crazy for you, or?
To be honest, you know, you really normally can't, but I do have one friend that I've heard in the background. So he's one of my really close friends, and,
yeah.
I always hear his voice for some reason when it's quiet. So. It's my friend named Frank, and I always hear him screaming and yelling.
Great.
Yeah, so in my last November fight, I heard him while I was fighting, yelling in the background. So.
Right. Oh, that's cool. That was November of 12.
Yep.
You fought Eric Brown.
Yep.
That was a Bellator card. You beat him in round 2 via armbar.
Yep.
Were you ever in danger in that fight? Were you?
No, not at all. He was actually my third opponent too. He was a last-minute replacement. He was actually from California. I was supposed to fight Mike Campbell, who was a WEC fighter.
Okay.
And he had contract issues or something because he fights for CES. And I was supposed to fight a good undefeated wrestler, another college wrestler, and he pulled out the week before, and Eric Brown ended up taking the fight. So I was training for a wrestler, and I ended up getting a striker. So my game plan was a little bit different, and I was training for a righty, and I ended up fighting a lefty.
Okay.
So it threw me off a little.
Yeah.
But no, I was never in trouble.
So you got to just be ready for anything,
yeah,
really.
Exactly.
So I mean, a lot of guys. Do you study? If you know who you're going to fight, do you study like films, or do you prepare for a specific guy? Because that would have been difficult for you.
The guy I'm fighting, he's another college wrestler. He also trains at American Top Team in Florida, so they got really good jiu-jitsu and obviously, you know, good all-around MMA.
Right.
But I will watch it a few times, just get an idea of what he does.
Okay.
But I won't study too much. And then I will prepare for him, but I will also, just in case the fight gets switched, I train, you know, I have righties and lefties I train with. And
okay.
So, but I am specifically getting ready for a wrestler who's going to look to try to take me down.
Yep.
Where usually I'm the guy taking you down.
And this is Ryan Quinn.
Yeah, right.
And he's originally from Connecticut, correct?
Mm-hmm. He actually was second in the state in high school wrestling. Then he went off and wrestled Division I, and I think he also wrestled for Sacred Heart University, which is Division I in Connecticut also.
Yes, yeah. So another local hometown guy.
Yeah, he's actually a friend of mine.
Excuse me.
We've known each other for years, so.
Oh, awesome. So does that affect you at all?
Nope.
Or is it just an opponent?
It's just an opponent. We'll be friends again right after the fight's over. So
it's just a matter of respect. And
yeah, yep.
You go in, and when it's on, it's on.
Yep.
And he's coming up from Florida for this fight, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great. Getting back to the school, we kind of veered off a little bit. The school, you said from kids all the way to adults. So what's the safety factor? Because I know I'm a parent myself. My son, everyone knows from watching the show, our show, he's doing wrestling at the PWA. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of contact, no contact. Is it, you know?
The beauty of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the reason why the popularity of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is so big is because you can tap out.
Okay.
So you can grapple and train at 100% 6 days a week and never get hurt. I'm a boxer also, but you can't do that in boxing.
Yep.
You know, I box 16-year-old kids and I go home with headaches. Mm-hmm. You do any type of martial art, you can get punched in the face. There's no striking in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You learn how to defend strikes and stuff, but when you're grappling and you're training, and this was how the UFC ended up getting so big because they seen what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu did at the beginning and how you can train it and never get hurt. If you get hurt, it's more your own fault because you don't want to give up. But if your arm is in a bad position, your leg, your neck, anything, you just tap out and you start over. So, and with the kids is they don't have pride like adults, so the kids have fun. And I've, you know, God forbid, but I've never had one injury in my gym. So no one, even with the adults, no one ever gets hurt. So
I mean, for parents like myself that would want to put their son into, or their daughter actually, you train girls as well.
Girls, yeah, tons of little girls. And it's the best self-defense there is. It's, you know, you research Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and for self-defense, you can't get any better. And you learn real self-defense. You get in shape. We also have a lot of fun. The kids love playing games and stuff, too, so they do have fun while they're there. And they're taught we work, and then we play. So the kids love dodgeball. So I say, you guys work hard enough, we play dodgeball at the end. So the kids do have a good time, and nobody gets hurt, and they're learning how to defend themselves at the same time.
Now, what do you think about the attitude in general of the MMA sport? You know, when it first came out, when UFC first started, the first like 8, 10 cards that they had, it was kind of mismatched, and now they've changed the rules and they've got people by weight class. Do you think the attitude of like at one point it was like called human cockfighting, that kind of thing? Do you think the culture has changed a little bit?
Yes, the respect of not only martial arts have came back to it, but also the respect in sports. Because even in wrestling itself, like collegiate wrestling, there's a huge respect factor in the sports. And when it first came out, you took people from all backgrounds, whether, you know, you had Tank Abbott, who was a street fighter,
right.
You had, you know, this guy and that guy who didn't know much about martial arts. You had arm wrestlers in there, you had sumo wrestlers, you had
right.
all different things.
Right.
So, no, and now the fighters all respect each other because everybody's well trained.
Yeah.
There's no more mismatches.
Right.
There's no such thing as an easy fight. We might have easy wins, but that doesn't mean if we fought that same person again, it would be an easy fight. I just beat these two guys my last 2 fights. It doesn't mean if I fight them again back to back, I would beat them as easy. We all train for the same thing.
Yeah.
So you have to have respect for every opponent you have. So the fighters definitely respect each other a lot more than they used to, and you don't see mismatches like you used to.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, I remember on one of the early UFC cards, it was like a sumo wrestler against a striker, and the sumo, it was apparent that he was used to being let to stand back up when he was knocked down, and the striker knocked him down and just got on him, and the sumo was looking up at the ref like, why can't I stand up?
Yeah.
And he had no idea.
The rules are different now. You used to see people's teeth getting knocked out and all kinds of stuff. So it's more of a professional sport now, and now we got the time limits and the weight classes. It's a lot different.
So
back then you'd get a 165-pound guy fighting a 265-pound guy.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, I mean, as a spectator, it was fun to watch, but I'm glad it changed and got to, because I don't think it would have lasted.
Yeah.
You know, and gotten to be as big as it is now.
Yeah, no.
What do you think are the major differences between the UFC and Bellator?
I look at Bellator and the UFC as the two major sports in the industry. They're the two biggest sports.
Yep.
They're the two biggest
brands.
MMA brands in the world. The difference is Bellator has the tournament style, so there's not as much politics in Bellator.
Okay.
And if you win in Bellator, you get to keep moving forward, where the goal is to get to tournament.
Yep.
And if you win the tournament, then you get a title shot. So to me, Bellator is just more sport-oriented.
Okay.
Where the UFC kind of went in the boxing direction, where the more tickets you sell, then you get title fights and stuff like that. So, you know, but the UFC does have the name brand, kind of like the NFL and the NBA.
Yeah.
So that's hard to compete with. But I think they're good for each other to have both organizations.
Yeah.
I don't think one organization is good. And it would be nice in the future to see kind of like you know how you have the Super Bowl at the end of the year, you have the NFC and the AFC. It would be nice to see if someday if Bellator champions could fight UFC
like
champions.
cross-pollination, yeah.
And not have to be one organization.
Right.
You know, kind of like the WBC and the WBA in boxing.
Yes.
So different councils and, you know, different champions.
Now, are you still a fan of boxing? You follow the sport?
I don't follow it as much as I used to, but I started boxing when I was 12.
Yep.
Started training at Ring 1 before Chad Dawson was even there in New Haven. And now I train at Boxing and Faith in New Haven under Luis Rosa. He's my boxing coach. He'll be in my corner September 7th. So I train just as much boxing as I do my wrestling and my jiu-jitsu.
So you obviously you consider yourself well-rounded.
Yeah.
You can stand up or grapple, right?
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah.
If not.
Well, some of the guys, I mean, we can go through names, but some of the guys are known more for the ground and pound, and some of the guys are known for the stand-up, and some guys are submission specialists and what have you.
Believe it or not, I've been doing stand-up a lot longer than I've been grappling, and I'm known as a grappler.
Yeah.
So my stand-up is a secret because I don't ever have to use it. So when I do use it, then they'll realize that I could stand, but I haven't had to use it yet. So.
And you're still doing jiu-jitsu with Marcelo Garcia?
Yep, I train with Marcelo Garcia in New York City. Marcelo is a legend in jiu-jitsu. I think he's 31 years old. He's considered the greatest grappler to ever live.
Wow.
He's been the Abu Dhabi champion since 2003. The Abu Dhabi Combat Club is our Olympics for no-gi Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so it's shorts and a t-shirt.
Yep.
And he's been the champ since 2003, and
wow,
he's beaten everybody. He's run through every big name you could think of, from tons of Gracies to, you know, Shaolin, who was another one of my good friends and training partners for a little while. But he's just beaten everybody.
Wow.
So I train there every Wednesday in New York City, and that's who I represent when I do jiu-jitsu.
Oh, great.
So
great. Excuse me one moment. We have a call.
Okay.
If I can hit it. Call, you are on the line.
Well, I think after Chad Dawson's last fight, he maybe should consider going to MMA or UFC after what happened to him.
This is our reigning boxing expert on the line here. Ed, how are we?
Very good, very good. Very interesting program, and your guest talked about boxing out of Ring 1, and I think, is it Brian Clark? Is he the one that runs that organization down there?
Yes, it is.
Ring 1, okay, so I know Brian Clark a little bit. I was ring announcer for a while for Larry Pelletier in Beat the Street up in Meriden, so
wow.
boxing shows. So I got a chance to meet Brian, and I know he does a good job with Ring 1. A couple things I wanted to ask your guest.
Yes.
One is, with the state recently passing a law that MMA fights, you know, now they're held at the casinos, but now in the future you'll be able to have the fights at you know, Bridgeport Harbor Yards or the XL Center.
Yep.
Will that help the popularity of the sport, in his opinion?
I think so, and there is rumors that the UFC is coming to Connecticut. A rumor is Hartford.
Yeah.
So that's the rumor. In the next 2 years, the rumor is the UFC is coming here. So if the UFC does come to Hartford, I think that would definitely help the popularity of the sport, because a lot of people in Connecticut don't really know MMA yet. You know, it's bigger in New York and New Jersey than it is in Connecticut. So, and it's a lot bigger in Massachusetts than it is here.
Right.
So I think if the UFC comes to Hartford, it's going to be, it would help.
Yeah. And what was your second question, Ed?
Is MMA hurting professional boxing, not only in the state, but I guess in the country? As John mentioned, I was a hardcore fight fan years ago, back when names like, you know, Hagler, Duran, Marlon Starling, Ray Leonard were household names, and now, really, outside of Pacquiao and Mayweather, nobody really knows anything about boxing. I don't know if that's the fault of MMA, but do you think your former sport, professional boxing, is something that's a dying breed?
I don't think boxing is dying at all. I actually, and when I get done fighting, I'm going to start promoting. We want to do boxing and MMA in the same cards. I think if you're an MMA fan, you have to be a boxing fan.
Right.
So a lot of more MMA fans will admit that they're boxing fans, and boxing fans will admit that they're MMA fans.
Right.
But I don't think so. I think that in the next, you know, 5 to 10 years, you're going to see new champions in boxing coming up.
Yep.
And, you know, you're going to see new stars. And I definitely think that the direction of MMA and boxing together is going to be a little different. And you're going to see cards like that. You got Rampage fighting Roy Jones soon.
Right.
And Bellator is going to help promote that.
Yep.
So I don't see boxing dying at all.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But, you know, and John's tried to get me to watch MMA, but when I see somebody get knocked down, I'm so used to seeing the other fighter go to the neutral corner. Now there's not even a corner in the ring, so I don't know what to do. But I'm enjoying the program, gentlemen. We'll
Thank you.
talk to later.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Great. Yeah, I was going to ask you about Rampage Jackson. Obviously, he came over into TNA, the world of professional wrestling, which our viewers hear us talk about more often. And it's an interesting thing with Spike and Bellator. And you mentioned that Bellator is looking into cross-pollinating with boxing. So we're going to have sort of a three-ring circus, so to speak.
Which is good. It's good for everybody. And it's going to bring more fans to all three sports. You
know, I think, you know, I mean, ratings and, you know, advertising, it is all done by demographics. And if you look at, you know, the 18 to 30-year-old male, is watching WWE, TNA, pro wrestling. They're watching UFC. It's the same audience for the most part, and you're competing for the same dollars. And I think your idea of putting boxing on the same card as MMA and getting one of the MMA fighters into TNA, which would be Rampage Jackson. They tried it with King Mo, I think about a year ago, and I think it's a good cross-pollination thing. And the biggest example would be Brock Lesnar. What do you think of him as a fighter, as a wrestler?
I was a big fan of Brock Lesnar because I'm a big fan of wrestling, college wrestling, and I was, after Brock got sick, he definitely wasn't the same fighter.
Right.
So you can't judge him. A lot of people judge him on his last few fights, and that's not the same Brock Lesnar who came into the UFC.
Yep.
So, in college, he was one of the most accomplished wrestlers at his weight out there.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, you can't argue that.
So, no, I was always a big fan of Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
So I was upset when he lost to Overeem. I wanted him to beat Overeem.
Yep.
So I knew he was going to have a hard time with Cain Velasquez because that's another killer wrestler.
Yep.
But I was a little upset with the Overeem fight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was kind of disappointed myself.
Yeah.
You mentioned the collegiate wrestling. Kurt Angle. Are you familiar with Kurt Angle? Yeah. And he's got a cause right now to get wrestling back into the Olympics. I mean, you're aware that they're taking wrestling out of the 2016 after the 2016.
It's back up though. It's back up for. There's 3 sports back up now for 2016, and wrestling is one of them. So it made the cut to get back voted in.
Reinstated.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, you're telling me something I don't know yet.
Yeah, it's not official yet, but it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why you would take that out. And some of the, they got like I forget what the technical term, but they got the flag waving and, like the ribbon waving. And, you had wrestling there since day one.
Exactly.
And so you're going to
our first sport ever.
Right.
And to me, wrestling, in my opinion, wrestling is the greatest sport. To take the greatest sport away from the Olympics, to me, is just absolutely crazy.
And we've said it here, too. I mean, it's just insane that they wouldn't even think to remove it.
Yeah, I can't even believe that even came up. It was a big shock to everybody.
Yeah, and I will say that Kurt Angle has been in the news a lot for some negative things, but one positive thing he's done is brought some awareness to their viewers, because I mean pro wrestling is far removed from collegiate wrestling, but a lot of the guys in the pro wrestling game, like Lesnar, like Kurt Angle, came up wrestling in high school,
especially
and
a long
college.
time ago.
Yeah,
all the old school wrestlers, they all wrestled.
Right.
So
they had that. And you yourself, I can imagine you to wrestle in the high school and college.
Actually, my high school, I went to Wilbercross High School. We didn't have wrestling.
Oh, wow.
But when I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I immediately sought out a wrestling coach, and I have my wrestling coach now, which is Blair Tugman, who runs our wrestling program.
Okay.
But before I met Blair, I wrestled with Ryan Ciatoli, who was my MMA manager, who was the coach of Ithaca College, and I used to wrestle with their team all the time.
Okay.
So that's how. But no, Wilbercross we didn't have. My brothers went to East Haven, and they all wrestled, but I didn't get to wrestle.
Oh, wow.
In high school, which was too bad.
And your brother's one of the trainers at the school also?
My oldest younger brother.
Okay.
Yep, because I have 3 younger brothers.
And what qualifies him?
He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's won, some titles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He only had a couple MMA fights. He's MMA. He doesn't like to cut weight, so MMA is not really his thing. He would fight at 170. Right now, he's like 230.
Wow.
So he doesn't really want to have to diet. So because we're Italians and we're in the pizza business also, so we like to eat.
Oh yeah.
So I myself cut 40 pounds to fight. So and he doesn't have the discipline, so he doesn't want to be bothered.
So how long does it take you to cut weight?
I start my training camp 8 weeks out, so I have 6 more weeks to go.
Okay.
This is my second hard week because I do 6 really hard weeks.
Yep.
So, and I do about 14 to 16 sessions a week, and my diet's pretty strict. 3 weeks before the fight is when I drop a good 20 pounds.
Oh, wow.
But I do cut a lot of weight. I'm good at cutting weight, so I wake up the morning at like 165, and I cut 9, because we're allowed to weigh 156.
Yeah.
I do 9 pounds in the sauna the day of weigh-ins.
Wow.
But it doesn't bother me. I'm so used to cutting weight. I've been doing submission wrestling. I'm a 3-time national submission wrestling champ. I've won the U.S. Nationals twice, North American Grappling Championships, and I've grappled at 59, 69. I've won titles at 59, 69, 79, and 89. So I'm used to cutting weight. So if I don't feel like cutting weight, I actually at 99 too. So if I don't feel like cutting weight, I'll do 89 or 99. If I want to cut weight, I've been as low as 59.
Wow.
So I don't mind cutting the weight. Yeah,
wow. You're going to have to train me. I can use about 20, 30 pounds. Well, maybe I'll come down and hang out with you in Brantford, actually. Tell me about your record. I show 6 wins, 4 of them by submission, 2 losses, 1 TKO, and I know you got something to say about that, and 1 decision, right?
Yeah, my decision loss was my first pro MMA fight ever. And I'm not someone to complain about anything at all. I said I'll retire when someone takes me down, mounts me, beats me up, and then I'll know that I'm done with the sport.
Yep.
But it was my first pro fight. I clearly won. It was a 3-round fight. It was a title fight. It was a 3-round fight. I clearly won the first 2 rounds. And the last round, he got 1 takedown, kneed me in the butt for a couple minutes, you know. And at the end, they raised his hand, and I thought they got the corner switch. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
And he was from Massachusetts. I was from Connecticut. It was in Massachusetts. I immediately got a title shot the next fight after that. So the organization itself thought I got robbed, and I won the title.
Okay.
My next fight, which was 2 months later,
right.
I think that fight was in like September. The next fight was in November.
Okay.
So they thought I got robbed. And then I was actually the TKO loss, which I've never been knocked out. It was in Ring of Combat. I was in the Ring of Combat tournament. They used to have tournaments.
Yeah.
And we were boxing. It was like the first minute of the fight. He threw an overhand right. Then he caught me with a good punch, and then immediately tried to take me down. But we were in a if we were in a cage, they would have never thought that I was hurt. We fell through the ropes.
Oh.
And when they dragged us back in, I thought they were starting us over, and the referee said, "No, I'm stopping the fight." I was like, "What do you mean?" And I was wide awake. You could see the video. And when they raised his hand and they stopped it, I was doing this. The whole crowd was booing. So the other kid's corner even came up to me and said, "Yeah, we got a gift. You know, you got to take what you can get." Because it was a tournament, and the winner of the tournament won $15,000.
Oh.
So
Tough loss.
Yeah, my friend ended up winning. Charlie Brennan, he went off to fight in the UFC. He was the next fight. He's one of my training partners now.
Okay.
So it was good for him, but not for me. But I don't complain. I'm sure if I'm in a fight and it's a decision and they give me the win, I'm not going to complain and say, "Oh, you should have won."
Right.
So things happen.
But you got 6 wins, 4 of them by submission. I see you beat Eric Brown by armbar submission, and that was in November of 12. And back in 2011, you beat Matt Nice by a key lock submission. Can you explain the key lock submission to me?
The key lock is it's a shoulder submission where it would pop the shoulder joint out.
Okay.
And your arm is in this position, and I'm across the side of the body. And you lift up the elbow, and the shoulder will pop out. Sometimes the elbow pops out too, which I think his elbow actually did pop.
And that was
pretty flexible kid.
at nearly 4 minutes in round 1.
Yep, that was round 1.
Wow. And what's the longest you've gone in the fight? How many rounds?
My longest fight was the 3-round title fight.
Okay.
Because the cup in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Actually, the other decision, Massachusetts and Ring of Combat, when we were in the tournament, it was only 2 rounds.
Okay.
So my longest fight was my first fight ever, which was 3 rounds. My first pro fight.
Okay.
So, but no, I plan on getting it done in 1 round. I don't really want to do 3 5-minute rounds.
Right, right.
We don't get paid by the minute. We get paid for the fight. So.
For the fight, right.
Yeah.
Right, because I've seen some, 5-round, just battles, and I don't think anybody wins those.
I've been a black belt now in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a long time. All my old fights, I was retired from Bellator. Got me out of retirement. I was retired from MMA. I had knee surgery after my last 2007 fight.
Yeah.
And now I've been a black belt for a long time, and my style of fighting is a little different.
Okay.
When I first started fighting in 2003, I had got my purple belt, and fighting, college wrestlers and stuff was a little harder than it would be now. And now I have different training partners.
Right.
So now I look to finish the fight, where before my mentality when I was younger was to try to win the round. Now from the second the bell rings, I'm looking to get in and get out. So I want to get this fight over with quick and go to Pepe's and get something to eat afterwards.
You heard that, Pepe's. You heard that. Send us some food, would you?
Yeah.
We had a nice spread earlier, which you were unable to partake of. I'm sorry you're cutting weight. But tonight, catering was done by Jersey Mike's. If you heard Mario Mancino talk about it, he was actually there today. I missed him by a little bit, and he's upset that I didn't invite him down for a little Jersey Mike's. But we had catering tonight by Jersey Mike's of Bradford. Thank you, Mark and Eric and all the fellas out there. You said you were in the pizza business? You have a family business? Or?
Yep. My brother runs Abate's in North Bradford.
Oh, I know that well.
Yep. That's my brother who works behind there. So if you want pizza in North Bradford, go to Abate's.
Nice, nice. We're coming down after the show.
That's my brother, Rocco, and making the pizza.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, I mean, local guys all the way down.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen next after September? Do you have anything lined up, or they don't book out that far?
I really would like a chance at the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mike Chandler is the best 155-pounder in the world, and he's in Bellator.
Right.
I think he would beat Ben Henderson, who's in the UFC. If you win the Bellator tournament, you get a title shot. If I fought Mike Chandler, I feel like I'm fighting the best 155-pounder in the world.
Yeah.
So I would like a chance at the tournament. My manager's been talking to him back and forth about it, and I think this fight is a test for me and Ryan, because Ryan's 4-0 in Bellator, I'm 2-0 in Bellator. So I think that Bellator is throwing the two guys that they think are pretty good and going to cancel one of us out.
Yeah.
So.
And hopefully it's Ryan and
exactly.
and
so,
not you.
Ryan's younger than me, so he's got more time. So.
Yeah. And wow, I can't believe you've been doing this since you were, a young man, and you're coming up in Bellator. How did you get into Bellator? Did they approach you? Was that something you pursued?
Yep. Nope, they approached me. They emailed me. I got an email from Sam Kaplan, who's the matchmaker of Bellator, asking me if I was interested. And I wasn't at first.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no. I said, I have guys, though, and I got a couple of my fighters in Bellator. And one of them was in one show, which was in Massachusetts. And then they asked me to fight in Connecticut, and I said, no, I had another fight, and another fighter fight. And then they came back to Connecticut again. And now I have a really good manager, which I didn't have a manager before.
Okay.
I had a manager, and then I got away from him, and then I didn't have a manager because I retired.
Yeah.
Now I'm managed by Mike Constantino, who manages Jim Miller, Dan Miller, Charlie Brennan, a lot of guys in the UFC.
Right.
So they offered me some money, and I called Mike, and I said, Mike was trying to get me out of retirement. Mike runs AMA in New Jersey. His gym is in New Jersey.
Okay.
He's a friend of mine from training in New York. And he actually followed me from the beginning of my career, so he was trying to get me out of retirement and used to break my balls all the time. Come on, I want you to come back, I want you to come back. So I sent him a message, said Bellator sent me a message, they want me to fight, and this is what they offered me. And he called me back. He said, well, they're going to pay you this, so do you want to fight? And I said, yes. So
wow.
Couldn't say no.
So how did Bellator find out about you?
I'm not 100% sure. I think they were just, they were coming to Connecticut, and they were looking for someone who can sell the place out, and they heard about me. So, and my first fight, I did sell 10,000 tickets.
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated and another magazine, they said I was a rock star in Connecticut when my ovation. So,
wow.
So I did sell a lot of tickets for them.
I'll tell you what, 10,000 tickets is more than Vince did at his last show, Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I sold a lot. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
In Rhode Island, I fought in Rhode Island for them. I sold like $5,000–6,000 worth of tickets. So,
yeah.
And then I was supposed to fight on their card in April in Atlantic City, their last show before the season ended.
Yeah.
And my opponent had got hurt and pulled out. I was supposed to fight Chris Ligori, who was a UFC vet.
Now, what happens to you? I mean, by no fault of your own, you can't fight. Do you get a consolation? Or?
No, they couldn't find me a replacement. Nobody would take the fight.
Oh, wow.
So
then you train to go up for all of this, and you're asked out for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So.
Well, that's got to be disappointing at the very least.
Because that was, last time I fought was November. So
right.
That's, 10 months. Where if I fought in April, it wouldn't have been so bad.
Right, right.
So, and this would be my last fight on my contract. But you know, with this win, I'm hoping for a new contract.
So that you can get into the tournament.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, yeah.
So if not, I don't know. I'm busy with the school, and I don't have time forever to wait.
Yeah.
For, you know, fight after fight. So I would like the big fights.
Tell me about the other trainers at the school. You mentioned your brother.
Yeah, I have my brother. I have Blair Tugman, who's our head wrestling coach. He's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he's a 4-time state freestyle champ in New Jersey, which New Jersey is a powerhouse of wrestling.
Yeah.
He wrestled Division I for Lock Haven University in Pennsylvania with Tim Bosch, who's in the UFC, Charlie Brennan, who was in the UFC. They were all teammates. They all wrestled together.
Wow.
I have Deshaun Robinson, who is a boxing and kickboxing trainer at our school, who's got a pretty big amateur boxing background. So he coaches, and we also I have a good female trainer who's a multi-time grappling champion, and she's only been with me a short period of time, and she wants to be a professional MMA fighter. She's 21 years old. She helps out with the kids and the adults. So
what do you think of? We were talking earlier before the show. Women like Ronda Rousey, Carmouche, you know,
women
the
are
girls
good,
like that.
Yeah, women are good for the sport.
Yeah.
I have this girl named Marissa. She's going to fight really small, though. She's only a 105-pounder. But, you know, in order to be a legit sport, you got to... Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a big, big sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a female wrestler at my school she's in high school, who's getting a scholarship to go wrestle for college. And, you know, she's a girly girl. She's not like a manly girl. She's another little tiny 105-pounder.
Mm-hmm. So
women are into grappling sports, and if they want to take it to another level and make money, there should be an avenue for them to fight MMA. And there's that Invicta show, so that's all women
all female,
MMA. All female. So
yeah. So
I'm excited about her. I can't wait to. She's my first female MMA fighter. So she got a couple more years, but 2 years.
Does Bellator do anything with females?
Yep, they do.
Okay.
So they have females on the card.
Are they going to have anyone on? Do you know in September?
This card, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
But the last card, they've had females, and I don't think they have any titles yet. But I think now that the female MMA is growing, I think they'll eventually they'll start.
I mean, Strikeforce when they had the Showtime contract, I mean they were fantastic.
Yeah,
and
with Gina Carano.
Right. Yeah, Gina Carano was fantastic, and you know it was really it's fun to watch, you know, and you know they are athletes, and you know
especially you got Ronda Rousey, who is an Olympic athlete.
Right.
You got what's her name? She trains at my gym in New York City, who I can't wait to fight. Ronda. She wrestled in the Olympics and everything. She was an Olympian. I'm just having a brain freeze right now.
Yeah, me too. I think I caught it from you.
Yeah. But she trains at my gym in New York City, and she actually wrestled for Lock Haven with Blair.
Okay.
So, you know, like you have Olympic athletes who are fighting MMA. And
right. And you know, it goes back to what we were saying before. I mean, you're going to eliminate this, you know, Olympics, you know, wrestling from the Olympics. And here we are, the top people in not only, you know, MMA, but the top people in the world of wrestling, you know, professional wrestling.
Was Ben Askren an Olympian?
I believe so.
Yeah, Ben Askren is the 170-pound champ.
You know,
he's fighting Wednesday night.
You know, and outside of outside of the United States, if you take wrestling out of the Olympics, the sport is not going to get any support whatsoever financially.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? A lot of the other countries, the state runs the athletic committees, and if there's no Olympics, there's no reason to have the sport.
Yep.
And there's no goal. So if you take it out, you're eliminating wrestling in some of these, totally eliminating it. Here, I mean, we'll still have it on a high school level, a college level, but in other countries,
even here though, we'll lose a lot of the college,
a lot of funding. Oh yeah.
So, and you lose a lot of the reason why some of these kids want to wrestle. You know, some people have goals. They want to go to the Olympics. They want to get scholarships in college and go. So.
Right. So I mean, you take it out of the Olympics. I mean, you're taking away kids' dream, and you know, for me, looking at it, wrestling, you don't need a huge gym. You don't, like for basketball,
Nope.
or you know, you don't need a field for baseball. You know, a gridiron for football. I mean, it's two guys that can, you know, you and I can practice and learn how to wrestle in a room relatively small size, and you don't need a whole lot of equipment and gear.
Nope.
You know, just to start out
Yeah.
at a high school level, and it's something that like almost anybody can get into. Whereas, you know, some of the team sports, like I said, you need a giant field. You need a lot of equipment. Football, you need, you know, pads and gear and all that stuff.
And wrestling is our first sport ever.
Yeah.
It's the reason why the Olympics exist.
Yeah.
So to take it out of the Olympics just absolutely makes no sense.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And like I said, some of the things that they left in to take wrestling out, it's just, it
Sports you
blows
never
me
even
away.
heard of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just blows me away. So what else is on your mind today? What else, what haven't I gotten to that is important to you?
Just been, you know, right now my whole life is training and dieting, so that's all I've been doing.
Yeah.
You know, today I already did 2 sessions. I got 1 more to go when I leave here.
Yeah.
So, and that's basically my whole life right now is doing that. And then, you know, right after this fight on September 7th, and I get to focus back more at Ultimate MMA, and
Yeah.
you know, because it does take me a little away from teaching, which is
Right. Right. That's understandable.
Yeah.
But I mean,
So-
from what you said, and you've got some qualified personnel there
Yeah, we got great guys
to cover your
Yeah.
to cover your loss.
But I love teaching my little kids and stuff. So when
Yeah.
I'm not there, then
What do you think about with like A-Rod in the news and all these athletes? What do you think of PEDs? All this and juicing and how often are you guys tested in Bellator compared to like UFC, that
I'm
kind
not
of thing?
100% sure how often the UFC tests is because I always hear random drug tests.
Yep.
But we have in our contract, especially if you have a more than one fight contract,
Yep.
that you can be randomly drug tested at any time. And if you fail a drug test, your contract is immediately void and you're cut.
Okay.
So if that's in your contract and you do take certain things
Right.
and you get cut, then it's your own fault.
Right.
The professional sports like A-Rod, I haven't heard anything about what they're taking or anything like that. I
Yeah.
haven't seen that on the news.
Oh, yeah. MLB right now is just suspended Ryan Braun for 60 some odd games, 65 games for PED. There's a guy down in Florida that's got some evidence that he was injecting these guys, and you know, I mean, it's unfortunate they feel they have to go this route to perform.
I do hear a lot of the MMA fighters are taking the new steroid EPO, or I don't know if it's a new or what, and it's a cardio based.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you said Florida because I heard a guy from Florida who said he knows someone who personally knows who they're getting it from. And,
Yeah.
And the EPO makes you never get tired, so you're cardiovascular. But it's dangerous. If you're not taking it by a doctor, you can die and have a heart attack and all
Right.
that. So, you know, these guys, some things you got to remember in their position, the risk factor is smaller than the money value that they're
Right.
getting. So if that can make a difference between making a $50 million contract in Major League Baseball or
Right.
you know, making 6 figures in the AAA league, guys are going to take a chance.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these guys are taking the EPO and you know, a guy like Ben Henderson, if he's fighting 5 rounds and he's taking that and he doesn't get tired, but his opponent gets tired,
Right,
not
gets
accusing
gassed.
Ben Henderson of taking it, but
Right,
I'm saying,
right.
you know, and he's going to keep his title. And you know, there's a lot of those drugs that don't have tests for him yet, so a lot of these guys are taking stuff.
Yeah.
I think Olympic-style drug testing is the only real drug testing. You know,
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
Mayweather wanted Pacquiao to do the Olympic style.
Yes.
Because Pacquiao had got caught for EPO
Yep.
before, so that's the only real way to test. And it's either don't even bother testing and let people do what they want, or you got to test everyone equally.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're going to target certain people, and some people, just by the way you look, doesn't mean you're taking it. So some people who don't even look like they've ever touched a
Right.
drug in their life,
Right. Lance Armstrong.
yeah, are taking different stuff that they
Right.
don't give you muscle,
Yeah.
but they do other stuff for
Right.
you. That so you can't, because a lot of people do judge the more muscular athletes and say, oh, he's definitely, and
Oh, yeah.
some guys that you don't think are the ones that are.
Right.
And a lot of people believe that's why BJ Penn can't compete anymore, because you got these guys that he's fighting that are taking the EPO and stuff like that, and that's why BJ's getting tired. And
Yeah.
you know, guys like George St. Pierre are rumored to take it, and so who knows? You know, nobody really knows.
Right.
They are
We're
tested.
not accusing anyone. We're not. You know.
Yeah, they are tested. So
We're not in the locker room. So.
yeah, and none of them ever failed a drug test.
Yeah.
So if you're not failing a drug test, then
But as you said, they don't detect everything that's out there anyway.
nope.
So
Not all this new stuff.
it's unfortunate that, you know, like you said, the money is there, and you know the temptation is there to, hey, I can do
Yeah,
this.
You could make
and-
more money, and you know. But then you got guys like Anderson Silva, who went on what 9-year winning streak, and I would bet 99% he's never touched a drug in his life.
Yeah.
So you know, do you really need it? You know, you got a guy who was considered the greatest to ever live,
Right.
who'd never touched anything.
Yeah.
You could even go back into the boxing days with guys like Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali, and those guys never touched anything.
No, you're right. You're right.
And they didn't need it. So,
Right.
you know, do you really need it? You know?
I would hope
So,
not. I would say
yeah.
no, and you know, I hope they come up with better testing, and you know, like you said, test everyone at least you know, fight week.
Yeah.
You know, to see.
I don't believe, you know, I do believe there's a lot of guys taking it, but I don't believe Cain Velasquez, the UFC heavyweight champion, is taking anything. You know, I think he's all natural. So some of the greatest fighters in the world are definitely all natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And as you said, you know, one of the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali.
yeah.
You know,
100% natural.
it was
yeah.
just talent. Yeah, that was just talent.
So,
And I'm in agreement with you that you know, either you got it or you don't.
yeah.
You know, and you know, obviously you're training and you're learning it as you
Yeah.
go, and you've been doing this for how many years now, and you know, you're still in training, you're
Yep.
still learning, and you know, you've got new instructors, and
Yeah, in this sport you
and-
learn constantly. I've been a black belt for years, and I've, you know, I think almost every time I train at the Marcelo Garcia Academy in New York City, I'm learning something new.
yeah,
Almost every time. And I've been doing jiu-jitsu for years and years and years,
yeah,
and I still learn every day. And a lot of the drugs take away the technical part of the sport. You know, guys are relying too much on their cardio and their strength and their explosion, and they're getting away from the technical side, which created MMA.
right,
The technical side of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is what made MMA so popular, is that the little man could beat the big man by using leverage, by using technique, and by using Jiu-Jitsu.
right,
So the non-Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athletes, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments in the IBJJF, they do have testing.
okay,
And that's the only, you don't see that in college wrestling, you don't see that in college sports. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the IBJJF they're not like a big organization. And for the world championships and stuff, they do test the athletes.
oh wow,
So you definitely don't see many Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys relying on steroids
Right.
because it's more of a technical sport.
right. And when I see some of the Gracies, you know, in the cage fighting, it's almost like a chess match. It's you
Yeah.
know, it's a physical chess match is the way I see it, and you know, and when he's got, you know, his opponent in a submission, is a, you know,
Yeah, you
you
take
can
your
almost
time.
see the
Yeah.
clock ticking. How do I get
Yeah.
out of this? You know,
Yeah.
and what do I do to maneuver out of it, rather than just brute force.
Exactly. And my coach, Marcelo Garcia, who's known as the greatest to ever live, he doesn't even do strength and conditioning. That's all he does. His strength training is doing jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
His conditioning training is doing jiu-jitsu. So he doesn't do anything like that. And he's the same size as me. He's probably the strongest guy I've ever felt in my
Yeah.
life. So like you said, either you got it or you don't got
Yeah.
it. Like, you know, he's never touched a drug in his life.
Yeah.
So you definitely don't need it.
Well, we talk about wrestling primarily on this show. Were you professional wrestling as a kid?
As
Did
a
you
kid,
grow
yeah,
up?
my father, he was a pretty
Okay.
big wrestling fan and
Yeah.
had good friends that were wrestlers.
Growing up in New Haven, I'm sure
Growing
you
up.
went to the Coliseum.
Yep. mhm.
WWE was, you know, WWF at the
Yeah,
time
Yeah,
was huge.
yeah. I was a big
and-
wrestling fan as a kid.
Yeah. Any of the guys you remember that you were fans of, or?
Obviously, my favorite wrestler as a kid was Hulk Hogan, but I was a big Ultimate Warrior fan.
Yeah.
And then even later, when I was a little older, I did enjoy when Bill Goldberg came out and
Yep.
that little, you know,
Yeah.
WCW thing came out for a little while.
Yep.
But no, I used to watch wrestling back in the Hulk Hogan days with,
Yeah.
you know, Rowdy Piper and those guys.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Oh,
in
yeah.
that generation, so as
Now,
a
when
kid.
do you take anything like Roddy Piper? You mentioned Roddy Piper. Was it one of the greatest promos, one of the greatest talkers in the business? Do you take anything from them and and kind of, do you do promos yourself? Do you?
No, not that. I'm not. That's Chael Sonnen's type.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
No, I don't. I don't promote fights like that. I'm a little bit more laid back, a little more quieter, shy type person.
Yeah.
So I don't really promote. I know that sells, and Chael Sonnen's making a lot of money doing that.
Yeah.
But no, and because I never take my fights as personal at all.
Okay.
So, and sometimes that gets a little personal with the talk. It's why
Right.
Anderson Silva hated Chael Sonnen, because he started getting a little personal with him.
Right. Right.
And I know in pro wrestling, they both know it's fake.
Right.
Where in real fighting,
Right.
they don't. You know, people start taking it seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So unless they start first, I don't really promote that much.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have a theme song? You come out to the ring?
Nope. I actually, change it every fight.
Yeah.
I never came out to the same song twice, but I change it every fight.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
What have you used?
I grew up in New Haven, so I do use a lot of rap music, but I use Biggie Smalls. I have came out to Iron Man before, so that was my first pro fight.
Yeah.
And my next fight, I'm actually coming out to a local rap artist. I actually don't even know his name. I just spoke with him today.
Oh yeah.
To help promote.
Oh great.
him. Yeah. So.
Oh great.
Once I get that website, I'll put that up on my website and stuff. So someone new who's just coming out.
Yeah.
So.
Oh cool. So you're helping out,
Yeah.
helping me out. You helping somebody else out.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. You mentioned your website. How do we get in touch with you? The school, all that stuff. Are you on Facebook? You're on Twitter and tweet? And
I'm
blah,
on
blah,
Facebook.
blah.
I'm on Twitter. You could find me just at Andrew Calandrelli on either one. My website, ultimatemmact.com or learnmmact.com. We also have
Facebook.
learnbranford.com. Goes to our website. And we have Ultimate MMA on Facebook. So all the emails come straight to me or Marissa, who's the office manager at my school.
Yeah, I spoke with her.
So, yep.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So
you're easily, readily available.
And I'm at my gym every single day.
Yeah.
So that's where I do 80% of my training.
In North Haven?
Yep.
That is? Okay.
In North Haven, yep.
All right. Do you ever go down to Brantford? Or?
I teach the kids classes in Brantford.
Okay.
But the adult classes are my brother and Blair Tugman.
Yeah.
So because I Tuesdays and Thursdays I do the kids classes in Brantford, and then I go straight to North Haven.
Okay.
So, and I have tons of guys fighting in North Haven. I have a guy fighting for a title August 3rd, Justin Christie, just this Saturday coming up in Agawam, Mass.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's right around the corner from us. Yeah.
I have our head boxing trainer, Deshaun Robinson. He's having his second MMA fight down that same card.
Oh wow.
So.
And is that a Bellator card or?
Nope, it's just a smaller show.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're still smaller guys.
Yeah.
I have a couple upcoming pros. I do train Nick Newell. I don't know if you ever heard him. He's the one-arm fighter that everyone's been talking about.
Yep,
so
I saw that.
He's fighting in the World Series of Fighting August 10th. So he trains at my gym.
Oh, and you guys are really busy then.
Yeah, we have a lot of good guys that are fighting.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Nick is actually 9-0 now. This will be his 10th fight.
Wow.
So, and he also wrestled in high school and college.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, see, it all comes back. It's full circle right there.
So
And
the college wrestlers are the toughest guys to deal with in MMA.
Yeah.
As you can see, all the champs are.
Yeah. Yeah,
they
have a ground and pound background.
Yeah. So they can keep the fight standing or they can take it to the ground. It's up to them. They can determine where the fight goes. That's why wrestlers are the hardest guys to fight.
Yeah.
Because if they want to stand, then it's up to they can stand because they're hard to take down.
Yeah.
If they're the better wrestler. And if they want to go to the ground, they don't want to stand, they don't have to if they're the better wrestler.
Well, you were saying that there's some more incentive in the UFC to stand up rather than grapple like you do?
Yeah, there's some locker room bonuses that if they stand and bang, then they get paid more, which is I don't agree with. You train your whole life for MMA, not for boxing with 4-ounce gloves.
Yep.
So MMA is a mixture of boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is submission wrestling.
Yep.
I don't believe in looking for submission. I don't believe in looking for decision wins. But if you can take the guy down and win by submission, I think it's just as exciting if you can knock the guy out.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and if you know about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know about the sport, most fans that are educated are more fascinated with the submission wins because it's a lot harder to get a submission win than a knockout
absolutely.
win. So, yeah, no. And Bellator definitely doesn't do that. So, they promote excitement. Whether it's on the ground or it's on the feet, just go out there and win. Don't leave it in the judge's hands.
That's great. That's great. Oh, I wish you success coming in September.
Thanks.
You look like you're in great shape.
Yeah, trying.
You got how many pounds to go?
About probably like 188. So I got about 29 pounds to go.
Yeah.
So, so I'll get
Can I
there.
give you a few to lose too?
Yeah.
Please. I mean, it's a fantastic. Who else is on the card? Do you know who else is on the card?
I know Joe Warren's on the card. He's one of the coaches to the new show that Bellator has. Dan Kramer's on the card. He was originally from Connecticut, so I know he's on the card.
Okay.
He's actually just got in the middleweight tournament, so he actually is on the same team as the kid I'm fighting, but he's also a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So he's on the card. And as for names, I just seen the card for the first time because it wasn't listed yet.
Yeah.
So I just seen the card for the first time the other day. So
I think you're holding some of the names back because of the Fight Master show.
Yeah.
So we don't
It's
know.
been blank. They haven't shown the whole card
right,
yet.
because we don't know who's won in the rounds in the Fight Master show.
Yeah. So.
Which you haven't seen, right? You said you watched a couple of them.
I'm training.
Yeah.
I'm trying to watch it. So.
It's funny because you know, you said that you don't watch a lot of it because you're so involved in it, and a lot of the wrestling guys that we speak to don't watch professional wrestling either, even though they do it, you know, on a regular basis. They don't watch it either.
I get home from training. You know, my last class on a Wednesday ends at 9:30.
Yeah.
The Bellator show starts at 10.
Right.
And I trained on Wednesdays. I train in New York City in the morning.
Yeah.
And then at night I do strength and conditioning at my gym with my strength and conditioning coach.
Yep.
So I get home at 10 o'clock and I forget that's even on. I turn the TV off. I don't even watch TV.
Well, usually I ask my guests to cut a promo, but you don't do that kind of thing. What do you got to say about Ryan Quinn, your opponent? The upcoming match. We got about 2 minutes left of the show.
Ryan Quinn, I would probably put as my toughest opponent. He's a former Division I wrestler. He's had all his fights at 170. He's 4-0 at 170 in Bellator. He's definitely a strong kid, and I think it's going to be a good fight. So, you know, he's a good kid. He's from Connecticut, and after I beat him, I wish him the best and hope that he keeps winning after I win. But he's a good kid, so, you know, we're going to go in there and have a good fight and afterwards walk out as friends. So nothing bad to say. He's definitely a tough guy. Trains an American Top Team in Florida, which is a great team.
Yeah.
They're actually connected to my team in New York City, so we're all connected in a way.
Yeah.
So.
With that, again, I wish you all the luck in the world. Ultimate MMA Training Center, both of it in North Haven and Branford. Andrew Calandrelli. Go to Mohegan Sun. Tickets are still available, as far as I know.
I'm at Ultimate MMA too, so
you can pick them up right and go get them from the man himself. Cheer him on, Connecticut's own. Right here, born and raised in New Haven.
Yep.
Abate Pizza. Go down and see his brother. Maybe we can sit and have a couple slices together. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having me on.
And with a minute to go, I thank you very much. And that about wraps it up for the Squared Circle. Anybody hearing from Hollywood Jay, have him give me a call. We were hoping he would call in. We don't know where's his whereabouts, so maybe next week we'll get an update. For that, I wish you well. Again, thanks for being on the show. That wraps it up for the Squared Circle. Have a good night, everybody.